Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television. I'm your host Frank Pereira. First up, a look at the headlines. After Supreme Court issues deadline, government to submit list of black money holders. Today, AG says 600 names will be given to the Apex Court. Fadnavis to be next Chief Minister of Maharashtra to be sworn in on Friday. Governor asks new Chief Minister to prove majority in 15 days of taking oath. India and Vietnam decide to step up security and defence ties. India and to supply Vietnam with naval vessels amid China disputes. And FIFA unveils official emblem of the 2018 World Cup to be held in Russia. Emblem unveiled by Sepp Blatter with the help of a crew of astronauts from Russia's space station. Well, after facing the Supreme Court's wrath for not disclosing the complete list of black money holders, the government will be placing the list before the Apex Court today. Attorney General Mukul Rohtgi, in fact, said that the government is not reluctant to share the entire list with the court, as it is not trying to shield anyone. He said that the list of over 600 names will be submitted to the court in a sealed envelope. He added that it is the court's responsibility to ensure confidentiality of the bank accounts and protect any future transactions with those countries.
The Supreme Court has rejected the centre's stand not to disclose all names in the black money case. It turned down a plea to exempt names where criminality is not found. The court has now asked the centre to come out with a full list by Wednesday.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने गवर्नमेंट की ये दलील कि भाई वो पुराने जो ऑर्डर्स थे जिसमें कि उन्होंने नाम डिस्क्लोज करने के लिए कहा था उनको मॉडिफाई किया जाए या क्लैरिफाई किया जाए, वो दलील आज सरकार की ठुकरा दी और उनको बोला है कि हमको तुरंत नाम दो। लोगों के तो स्वॉर्न स्टेटमेंट्स थे इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट के साथ, जिसमें उन्होंने एडमिट किया था कि उनके अकाउंट्स थे और ये इलीगल थे।
The centre is ready to oblige, but it also warned of implications, expressing concern that it may lose the support from other countries to get names of more defaulters.
In giving it to either the court, and the government shall place the list before the court, because the government has already given it to the court-constituted SIT. The government is also keen that the procedure followed must be such that the reciprocating countries continue to cooperate with us.
We require to give a sovereign assurance of confidentiality that the names will not be disclosed to the public except to the tax court.
The centre drew flack on Monday for revealing names of only 3 businessmen with illegal money stashed abroad. On Tuesday, opposition parties stepped up pressure after the Supreme Court order.
पूरा का पूरा पैसा काला धन भारत के अंदर आना चाहिए, जैसे कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने चुनाव के दौरान वायदा किया था। 100 दिन तो नहीं हुए, 150 दिन हो गए। चलिए अब लेकर के आ जाएं।
पहले कांग्रेस और अब बीजेपी दोनों काला धन वालों को नाम छुपाती और उन्हें बचाती हुई नजर आ रही थी, लेकिन आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने काफी कड़ा फैसला लिया।
It remains to be seen if the court allows making the full list public, which reportedly has some big political names. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Joining me on the program this morning is Satya Prakash, legal editor of Hindustan Times. Good morning, Satya Prakash, and thank you for joining us on the program. Well, this particular issue has seen a lot of action in the media, a lot of traction in the media over the last few days. First initially there were 3 names revealed, then 8 names, and now suddenly the Attorney General Rohtgi has come out and said that 600 names or over 600 names will be revealed. Why is it that, the government was so reluctant in revealing these names initially?
Well, what happened was during the UPA regime, there were almost 78 double taxation avoidance agreements were signed. In fact, by now it's 92. In most of these agreements, they have a clause regarding confidentiality. You have to issue a certificate of confidentiality. If you don't do that, if you disclose all these names without following the due procedure, that is, in all such agreements provided for, is that unless you launch a prosecution against those account holders, you cannot disclose the name in the public. That is the concern of the government, and what the government is saying, and it has been said by the government on affidavit, thereafter by Attorney General and the Finance Minister. It is not that the government does not want to disclose the names. What the government is saying, that all bank accounts or anybody holding a bank account need not be illegal bank account in foreign banks. It can be a legal bank account, one. Second, the government is for disclosure of those names. But the caveat they are adding is that unless and until we launch a prosecution against all those persons, we cannot disclose it. Why? Because this goes against various treaties signed by the government. One of the main problems with the treaties signed by government is the judiciary would not have any say, because the treaties signed by government, it is non-justiciable.
Yes.
You cannot challenge it because it's the prerogative of the executive. You cannot challenge it before the court, and court cannot decide on the legality of those treaties signed by the government. But the court, what the court is saying is, there is no new argument given by the government. This argument was taken by the UPA government. And when the Supreme Court ordered formation of an SIT, that was in July 2011, and thereafter the UPA government filed a review petition that please reconsider your decision and don't do this.
Yes.
The review petition was dismissed by the court in May this year. And thereafter, the government didn't do anything. In fact, the period of limitation has expired.
Yes.
Now the government is coming up with this argument that please reconsider, and because if you do this, or if we disclose it like this, many of the countries, they would not share information with us.
Now the government has put the onus on the Supreme Court. The government has come out and said that, it is for the Supreme Court not to reveal these names. We'll present the names in front of the Supreme Court. But is the general public really going to know who these names really are, or who these people really are?
See, first aspect is technical legal aspect, in which there are arguments, counter arguments, which Mr. Jethmalani has said that any double taxation avoidance agreement would not relate to, or it cannot cover this black money aspect, or those having black accounts in foreign banks. Second is that these accounts we are talking about, these accounts were, the details were stolen and given somehow French government obtained, and then it has come to Indian government, and almost 3 years have lapsed. But now it is for the government to disclose it or not, and the legal arguments, technical arguments. But second is, and perhaps the most important is, the political aspect of it. The kind of campaign the BJP, led by Mr. Narendra Modi, ran during the election earlier this year.
Yes.
And thereafter, to be seen to be shielding the
black
culprit
money holders,
or
yes,
black money holders, and the kind of comments that the court has given yesterday, it's politically, it's very it's costing very high to the India government.
Indeed.
Because they accuse the UP of shielding the black money account holders, and now to be seen to be doing the same.
Yes.
Because today's newspapers, and particularly the vernacular newspapers, the kind of headline they put out, what kind of message is going to the public? And
Indeed.
that is where this government will now have to rethink its strategy, because giving a legal and technical argument before the court is one thing, and to be seen to be shielding the black money holders
is
another thing, and that is where the government is worried, and I am sure they will do something to wriggle out of this controversy.
Okay, all right, we'll have to leave to that. Thank you so much, Satya Prakash, for joining us on the program this morning and sharing your views on this particular subject. Let's move on now and talk about political activity that has picked up in the national capital after the Supreme Court pulled up the centre and Delhi's Lieutenant Governor on Tuesday. The court questioned the delay in deciding the future of government formation in Delhi. The BJP is still waiting for a formal invitation as the single largest party to form the government, but the opposition parties are crying foul.
It's been 8 months since Arvind Kejriwal decided to quit as chief minister, leaving Delhi under president's rule. Despite attempts to avoid a midterm poll, the political deadlock remains. The Supreme Court took serious exception to this long delay. It pulled up both the centre and Delhi's Lieutenant Governor, saying that president's rule cannot continue forever.
The court told the government that, look, this plea you have been giving us for the last 5 months, and the case has been repeatedly adjourned on this basis. but in 5 months you have not been able to form the government, etc. Therefore, we cannot go on adjourning the matter on this basis, and therefore today the court started arguments in this matter.
As the single largest party, the BJP stands the chance of getting a call to stake its claim. The centre told the court that President has approved the LG's proposal to call the BJP to form a government, but the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress have been accusing the BJP of using unethical means to garner a majority. They are demanding fresh elections.
BJP तैयार है, मगर चुनाव कब करना ये विषय लेफ्टिनेंट गवर्नर के रिपोर्ट के आधार पर केंद्र सरकार अपना निर्णय करेंगे, बाद में चुनाव होगा।
अगर बीजेपी जैसी पार्टी, अगर इनको जरा सा भी रत्ती भर कॉन्फिडेंस होता कि हमारी सरकार बन रही है, पिछले 5 महीने में ये लोग सरकार बना चुके होते हैं। इनको पता है ये टाल रहे हैं बेसिकली।
जिस तरीके से नंबर नहीं होने के बावजूद भारतीय जनता पार्टी सरकार बनाने की कोशिश कर रही है, ये लोकतंत्र के बेसिक मूल्यों की हत्या है।
Presently, the BJP is the single largest party in the Delhi Assembly with 28 seats. This after 3 of its leaders were elected as MPs in the Lok Sabha elections. The AAP has 27 after one of its MLAs walked out. The Congress is a distant third with just 8 seats. By-polls to 3 of the vacant seats will take place on the 25th of November. With inputs from Ravindra Sharan, Anu Diwan and Pranav Goswami, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, ending days of speculation, Devendra Fadnavis was elected the BJP legislature party leader and the Maharashtra chief minister yesterday. Fadnavis will be sworn in as the chief minister on Friday. But after more than 10 days since the election results came out, there is no clarity on whether the BJP will take the support of its estranged ally, the Shiv Sena. Sena chose to maintain silence on the issue and is waiting till the swearing in on the 31st. For now, it seems like the BJP is happy to form a government propped by the NCP from outside.
I'm thankful to all my leaders as well as members of our legislature party. I'm thankful to the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Bhai Modi ji, who has led us to victory. At the same time, our party president, Shri Amit Shah ji, and all our national leaders who have helped us to achieve this victory.
The newly elected MLAs of the BJP have chosen Devendra Fadnavis as the leader of its Maharashtra legislature party. The election paves the way for Fadnavis to become the chief minister of the state as and when the government is formed. Devendra Fadnavis, who was Prime Minister Narendra Modi's favourite among all contenders, will be BJP's first ever Chief Minister in Maharashtra. Fadnavis, the Maharashtra State Unit President, was elected by the 121 BJP's legislators.
The proposal was moved by Mr. Eknath Khadse, who is the leader of the opposition earlier in the House. He moved the name of Shri Devendra Fadnavis, and the entire legislature party accepted that with a thumping majority.
Soon after his election, Fadnavis went to meet Governor C. Vidyasagar Rao and staked claim to form the government.
I would like to assure people of Maharashtra that we will follow the same path which is followed by Honorable Modi ji, the path of inclusiveness, the path of development, the path of transparency.
देवेंद्र जी की विजन, उनका कर्तृत्व, उनका नेतृत्व महाराष्ट्र को एक नई दिशा देंगे, ऐसा मेरा विश्वास है। देवेंद्र जी के पीछे निश्चित रूप से महाराष्ट्र की जनता भी खड़ी है, कार्यकर्ता भी खड़े हैं, पार्टी भी खड़ी है, और दिल्ली में नरेंद्र मोदी जी और मैं, हम सब लोग उनके पीछे खड़े रहेंगे। केंद्र सरकार का पूरा सहयोग महाराष्ट्र को मिलेगा।
From an obscure corporator to becoming the youngest mayor of Nagpur to the first BJP chief minister of Maharashtra, Devendra Fadnavis's climb up the political ladder has been steady. The 44-year-old leader has deep roots in the RSS. At a rally, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had called him Nagpur's gift to the country. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, Haryana Chief Minister Manohar Lal Khattar on Tuesday night allocated portfolios. He retained charge of home and other key departments. He will hold most departments including home, power, town and country planning, urban estates, science and technology, IT, information and public relations and cultural affairs. The portfolio allocation came 3 days after Khattar was sworn in as the first BJP Chief Minister. Captain Abhimanyu has been assigned finance, whereas Rambilas Sharma has been given transport and education. The 6 cabinet ministers have been allotted other departments, while the 3 ministers of state will hold departments attached to the main ministry. Well, it's time for a short break now, but much more on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Back, you're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, in a bid to boost bilateral ties, India and Vietnam signed 7 agreements on Tuesday. Speaking on the occasion, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the ties are important for Asia-Pacific security. Meanwhile, China warned both the nations against harming its sovereignty on the issue.
The second day of Vietnamese Prime Minister Nguyen Thanh Duc's meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Delhi. The meeting assumed significance after the two nations agreed to free navigation in South China Sea amid a controversy with China over disputed waters. On Tuesday, the two nations inked a pact for exploration in 2 additional oil and gas blocks and step up cooperation in areas of defense, security, trade and counter-terrorism.
जल्द ही $100 मिलियन अमेरिकन डॉलर की लाइन ऑफ क्रेडिट को ऑपरेशनलाइज करेंगे, जिससे वियतनाम भारत के नए नेवल वेसल्स प्राप्त करेगा.
Và về việc Ấn Độ tiếp tục hợp tác với Việt Nam thăm dò khai thác dầu khí tại vùng đặc quyền kinh tế và thềm lục địa của Việt Nam ở Biển Đông. Thưa quý vị và các bạn,
But China has taken serious note of the two nations warming up to each other on the South China Sea row. It has warned both countries against harming its sovereignty on the issue.
中国对南沙群岛及其附近海域拥有无可争辩的主权，在南海海域进行正当合理的油气活动，我们不持异议。但是，如果这种活动
China's move to drill in disputed waters and set up airstrips on contested islands sparked maritime clashes this year. Vietnam is trying to build a credible naval deterrent to China with kilo-class submarines from Russia. It wants the patrol vessels for surveillance of its coast and around its military bases in South China Sea. With inputs from Akhilesh Suman, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on now, Rahul Gandhi on Tuesday directed weeding out of bogus members in the elections to make Congress fighting fit in the wake of the debacle in the Lok Sabha and Assembly polls. At a Congress meeting to review its performance in the recent elections, Party Vice President said that the party polls ought to be free, fair and transparent. Organizational polls in the past have often been marred by accusations of bogus members. Rahul Gandhi also said that the opportunity should be utilized to rejuvenate the organization. Congress suffered its worst ever defeat in the Lok Sabha polls and in the Assembly polls, losing power in both Maharashtra and Haryana. While the Congress won just over 40 seats in Maharashtra, it has been reduced to just 15 in Haryana.
जो भी कांग्रेस का सदस्य बनता है उसको आइडेंटिटी कार्ड दिया जाएगा और अभी भी उसका जो मेंबरशिप फॉर्म है उसकी फोटो लगती है. इसके बाद सारा ये हमारे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में है कि जहां हमारी नीचे की इकाइयां हैं वहां पर जो लोग मेंबर बने हैं उनकी लिस्ट लगाई जाती है. उस सूची को कोई भी जाकर के देख सकता है.
Journalist A. Surya Prakash was appointed the chairperson of the Prasar Bharati board on Tuesday, filling the post that has been lying vacant for the last 6 months. Surya Prakash's appointment, which will be for 3 years, came at the recommendation of a 3-member committee that was headed by Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari. He will succeed veteran journalist Mrinal Pandey, who completed her tenure on April 30th this year. Prakash is presently consulting editor with The Pioneer and a distinguished fellow at the Vivekananda International Foundation. He held key posts at several print and broadcast media organizations. Moving on now, the government's ambitious Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana has generated an overwhelming response. Latest data shows at least 6.5 crore accounts have been opened under the scheme that has mobilized over 4,400 crore rupees so far. But according to experts, the government still has a lot of work to do, not only to keep the accounts alive, but also to raise level of financial literacy to make them functional.
We have to do a lot more on a sustained basis. Otherwise, these accounts, they have the danger of becoming dormant accounts, as it happened earlier also. If they become dormant accounts, then they are of no use. So we have to keep them alive through financial literacy so that people make use of these accounts more and more, through savings, use of debit cards, and then transfer of the government subsidies or pensions or wage payments into these accounts. All that has to happen.
Well, you can watch Rajya Sabha television's special program on the Jan Dhan Yojana at 10:30 p.m. on Wednesday. Well, let's now take a look at some of the other news and updates from around the nation in our wrap. The Indian Coast Guard is preparing itself to deal with any eventuality arising out of cyclonic storm Nilofer, which is expected to make landfall near Nalia village in Kutch district on November 1st. According to reports, the ICG has activated cyclone monitoring cells and deployed 30 ships besides aircraft and helicopters. The Telangana Legislative Assembly budget session would begin on November 5th and the state budget would be presented on the first day. The session would be held for about a month. The decisions were taken at a review meeting held by Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao. India will be handing over a dossier to Bangladesh for preventive steps and necessary action needed to be taken by Dhaka to counter the threat posed by Jamaat-ul-Mujahideen Bangladesh. According to reports, the centre has deputed NSA Ajit Doval to stay in Burdwan to get first-hand knowledge of the conspiracy being hatched by alleged cadres of JMB to target Bangladesh government from Indian soil. Well, let's now get an update on how the global stock markets are doing. The US stocks rose slightly on Tuesday for the first time in almost a month as strong earnings eased concerns about the outlook for corporate America. In the US markets, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose by 187.81 points or 1.12% to close the trading at 17,005. Standard & Poor's 500 gained 23.42 points or 1.19% to end its trading at 1,985. The Nasdaq Composite added 78.36 points or 1.75% to finish at 4,564. Snapping its 3-day losing streak, gold recovered by 0.18% or 40 rupees to reach 27,490 per 10 grams on emergence of buying by jewelers and retailers at existing lower levels amid a firm global trend. Silver followed suit and gained by 0.25% or 50 rupees to 38,250 per kilogram on increased uptake by industrial units. Asian stocks opened in the green this morning amid optimism about US earnings and economic data before a Federal Reserve policy announcement. Japan's Nikkei is up by 81.68 points or 0.53% at 15,411 at the start of today's trading. Hong Kong's Hang Seng rose 258.97 points or 1.63% to trade at 23,520. Some international news now. Strict travel bans and quarantine rules have provoked a huge debate across the world on the Ebola scare. The United Nations has said that the governments around the world must not deter health workers from coming to West Africa to fight Ebola, and quarantine decisions should not be based on hysteria. The statement comes in the wake of a US decision to isolate soldiers and health workers returning from West African countries. The criticism forced the US to revoke its decision. Meanwhile, Sierra Leone has also condemned Australia's decision to suspend entry visas for people from Ebola-affected countries in West Africa as counterproductive and discriminatory. Meanwhile, in another development, a Dallas nurse who contracted Ebola in the US from a Liberian patient but is now free of the virus has been discharged.
Decisions should be based on science and facts and not hype and hysteria. And anything that will dissuade foreign trained personnel from coming here to West Africa and joining us on the front line to fight the fight would be very, very unfortunate.
We deployed this DART team to West Africa back in early August. They're now the strategic and operational backbone of America's response. They're doing what it takes to make sure that medical personnel and healthcare workers from all countries have what they need to get the job done. And we can make sure that when they come back, they are being monitored in a prudent fashion.
In some more international news now, Moscow's statement that it will recognize the results of the separatist election in East Ukraine has drawn criticism from the West. US Secretary of State John Kerry has warned Russia that it will break international agreements if it recognizes the election. Rebel leaders are planning to hold elections in Donetsk and Luhansk on the 2nd of November. The United States, along with the rest of the international community, has refused to recognize the separatist elections unless they happen within the framework of the special status law passed by Ukraine's parliament and signed by President Poroshenko. But Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov argued the elections in Donetsk and Luhansk regions are important to legitimize the authorities there. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko said that the polls threaten the peace process with Kiev.
Не перетягиванием Украины то на запад, то на восток, а занимается теми реальными проблемами, которые перед страной стоят. И будет думать о том, как обеспечить единство этой страны.
Some sports-related news now. There's still a long way to go for the 2018 World Cup, but it already has a logo. FIFA and the Russian Organizing Committee revealed the tournament's official emblem on Tuesday. FIFA president believes that the event will be better than the 2014 edition in Brazil. The logo was unveiled by FIFA president Sepp Blatter with the help of a crew of astronauts from Russian space station. The logo depicts the World Cup trophy in red and blue colors from the Russian flag with a gold trim. Blatter was all praise for Russia for being on time with their venue construction, something that is a relief after the South Africa and Brazil editions.
The choice was quite easy because there is one emblem for me who gives the feeling immediately that you are talking about Russia. That the colors are Russians, that the spirit of the way it was designed or it is designed.
Russia 2018 will be better. Because football will improve during the 4 years. And I'm sure it will be a wonderful fiesta of the football of the different continents.
Well, let's now take a look at the other news-making stories or other sports stories from around the world in our Sports Beat. Chennai FC's marquee player Ilano Blummer and John Mendoza fired 2 goals each to steamroll a hapless Mumbai FC 5-1 and bounce back from their previous defeat in the Indian Super League. Brazilian Ilano, with his brace, became the highest goal scorer in the tournament and was adjudged the hero of the match, while Colombian Mendoza scored the 3rd and 4th goals for his team. Chennai play Atletico de Kolkata in their next game at home on November 4th. World number 1 Novak Djokovic began his Paris Masters title defense with a routine 6-3, 6-4 win over German Philippe Kohlschreiber in the 2nd round on Tuesday. Djokovic, who became a father for the first time last week, wrapped up victory on his first match point. The Paris Masters will decide who travels to London next month for the ATP World Tour Finals, with Djokovic, Federer, Wawrinka and Cilic already qualified. South Africa have moved to the top of the ICC one-day rankings for the first time in 5 years. The Proteas climbed above Australia following their 2-0 series win in New Zealand. The last time South Africa headed the ODI rankings was in September 2009, but they slipped down the standings after their first round elimination from the ICC Champions Trophy at home later that month. Well, English veteran rock band the Rolling Stones are currently on the Australia and New Zealand leg of their 14 on Fire tour. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees will conclude their tour on November 22nd in Auckland. We leave you with images of the opening night where they enthralled the audience in Adelaide. Bye-bye.